Second.
Motion second on favor?
Aye.
Closed session. In closed session tonight, we discussed the real estate matter and instructed the manager to take the next steps in their research. So I think that's a good thing. So, I'd like to call the regular meeting to order. It's a 6 o'clock meeting. First off, a moment of silence for those, especially on Veterans Day. I messed up a little bit on Veterans Day, and it was a celebration at the end of World War I, but it's still an observance for all those people that we lost. Also, our employee that was on with Topsail, and she was dancing on the stage, so things are looking up. And please, again, I think our prayers are working to keep her involved. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Congratulations. Oh. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. And before we go into public comments, I need a motion to excuse Commissioner Zazak.
I make a motion to excuse Commissioner Zazak.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion a second. It's good.
Do we know why he's not here?
He's just not meant, he's excused.
Keep in mind that he was not excused on any motion by his absence where he counted as a vote in the affirmative.
Okay.
If he is excused, how does it count?
He does not.
It is not counted. Yours to the board. Got a motion, a second?
We'll say that again.
In the event he is not excused, it's an unexcused absence. He is nonetheless deemed to have voted in the affirmative on any particular motion.
Okay.
Then excuse him.
I have a motion to excuse and a second. Have vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So Cassie's excused. So let's move on. Public comment. I have a free comment that came in. One's a little late, so I've got to read through that one a little bit. The first one, I'll start with, Beth Voice. She said, excuse me, 2119 Ocean Boulevard. And this pertains to the king tide and storm we had a few weeks back in the Clyde Avenue, that the escarpment took out a lot of sand in that area that was south of McClyde going towards the end of Serenity Point. Excuse me. And apparently that part of the island is not included in our nourishment plan. And she has concerns about that and wants to see if it can be included, because it's still part of our island and very important to protect the hides as well as the entry point. So that is a topic that will come up a little bit later with Chris Gibson. I think that's item number 8 or 9. Number 9, and his response of the sand loss on the nor'easter. The next is Michelle Rivas. She was indicated that she was sorry at the last meeting when we had some conversations on this, but on behalf of Conservative Point, she wanted to thank everyone the help that to achieve that purchase, but also for the current land use plan and including the language that prohibited development and how it responds to the state purchase and agreement. Third was Richard Whitfield, Maritime Way. His comments were mainly about the money that we got for the $8 million bill to build the government. He felt that was adequate to build and nothing else should have been added. He felt the 9.6 million was too much. He said some of that money could have gone to VIS. And then he questions about the fire station being, maybe too small and to fit the truck, and that the truck maybe is too big. So, not sure where to go on that one. He has some concerns about our streets not being large enough and alignment of such that the truck would be able to maneuver through our town. I think he was just indicating that he felt that we needed to be more prudent with our tax dollars. The last was, from Tim McGee. This is a strategic plan for Topsail Beach. Tim wanted to rebuild the service building.
I'm gonna make a comment here,
Okay.
Frank,
Sure.
about that. Well, I just gave you guys copies of it.
Yeah, you just did. It's hard to, you know.
He's saying he wants to read it. Yes,
Yeah,
public comment.
you'd like to, oh, you want to read it?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, we'll take that on. Now, any other comments?
Just Kim McGahee,
Okay, yeah.
one other.
That was easy. Make it complicated.
We try and keep it simple as much as possible. I'm Kim McGahee. I'm a full-time resident of 2011 Ocean Boulevard, Topsail Beach. Town of Topsail, oh, by the way, congratulations to the newly elected commissioners. Town of Topsail Beach is one of the last remaining relatively undeveloped pristine beach communities on the southeast coast. In order to keep it that way, we need to have a plan for the future, a vision of what we want Topsail Beach to look like 10 years from now. Accordingly, I am submitting the strategic plan for Topsail Beach as an outline for controlled development growth and beach lifestyle preservation. We have what the rest of the world wants, and we need to keep it peaceful, low profile, and exclusive. Number one, repeal the safety building as approved by the previous Board of Commissioners. The taxpayers do not want, and the town does not need, a monument to government. Replace it instead with a combination historic park, outdoor music stage venue, a recreational athletic facility, and two-story retail shops and restaurants with frontage on South Anderson, which should be renamed Main Street. The historic park would be an interactive pedestrian park connecting the Assembly Building, the Observation Tower, and onto the Jolly Roger Pier, explaining the local and nationwide history and significance of Operation Bumblebee. A walking tour of Topsail Beach town history would be easily accessible and very informative. The music stage would serve as an outdoor live arts attraction for all sorts of music and theatrical concerts, from bluegrass to jazz to classical, thereby making Topsail Beach the music entertainment destination venue of the Carolina coast. Someday, quote, playing at Topsail, unquote, will be the talent call of aspiring musicians. A tennis court, basketball hoop, and playground would serve our growing population of locals and tourists and provide a recreational athletic component to this park area. A low-profile pedestrian retail development would front Main Street with two-story front porch, cottage-style architecture featuring shops, restaurants, lodging, and other retail uses for tourists and locals. Main Street would have safe, wide sidewalks on both sides of Main Street from the Bush Marina down to the Pickle Park. And all the real estate properties in this 4-block corridor would have residential and commercial zoning. This beachside development would attract tourists and locals alike, establish a sales tax income base for the town, and create a lasting, usable Main Street park-like setting for future generations. People would seek out Topsail Beach for the ocean and for the Main Street activities when they come off the beach. Number two, establish controlled growth goals and policies. In an effort to prevent the development mistakes made by Surf City and North Topsail Beach, revise the planning and zoning ordinances to lower the height restriction to 35 feet and lower maximum density allowances in order to retain the quote-unquote cottage feel of Topsail Beach and discourage multifamily, high-density, unattractive new buildings and homes. We can be better than the rest of the island by not giving away the farm to selfish hit-and-run developers and McMansion home builders. We do not want to see a 10-story Marriott on the beach. Number three, implement a 1% town transfer tax. A simple way to generate funds specifically allocated to this town core development or to the town general fund would be to impose a 1% town transfer tax on all real property purchases within the town limits. Transfer tax would be payable at closing directly to the town by every buyer. Consider it the price of admission to our exclusive oceanfront community for anyone buying property here in the town and receiving the future benefits of the town amenities. We do not want to be like Surf City or Myrtle Beach, and future planning today will preserve our natural scenic gifts for tomorrow. Thank you for your consideration.
Finkel,
Good evening. For record, Ross Finkel, 1701 South Anderson Boulevard. I wanted to take this opportunity for a couple of minutes to speak about the recent fire up in Surf City. Just to keep that discussion alive, that our needs to address our level of service around here. I wasn't going to talk about the fire station, but just real briefly, failure to address the inadequacies of our current fire station as it directly relates to response time, because we're not housing our firefighters in an appropriate facility, directly affects lives and will lead to additional civilian deaths. We need to address that, put our firefighters in an appropriate building to reduce response times, get people on scene quicker. Enough of that. So anyway, back to the fire. That really illustrates why we need to have adequate staffing. Now, that fire was unique. I mean, all I know about that fire is what I saw on the Facebook. They arrived on location. That building was 100% involved in fire. And I'm going to say a couple of things here. One thing you're going to shake your head. One is they did exactly the right tactics. They protected the exposures. Number two, they didn't put that fire out. That fire went out because it ran out of fuel. Why did it run out of fuel? Because they couldn't provide enough water quick enough for the amount of fire they had. Fire and firefighting is all about chemistry and physics. You heat up carbon-based fuel, a piece of wood, it gets hot, it creates a gas, it catches on fire, it produces heat. Heat is measured in BTUs. A cubic yard for a cord of fire or firewood, 8 foot by 4 foot by 4. Gallon of water. 9,625 BTUs from that. So do the math on a house fire that big. There's no way that we're going to bring enough water at 9,000 gallons, 9,000 BTUs per gallon to remove all that heat to put that fire out. As fires go out, because you remove the heat, you smother them, that type of thing. The water, the wetness doesn't do it. It's removing heat that makes the fire go out. So back to my point, adequate firefighters on the unit. You have to give ourselves a fighting chance. The quicker you get there with the appropriate number of people, you can put as much water as you can on a smaller fire. The longer you wait, the bigger the fire grows. It grows exponentially. So what they got when they pulled up on location there was a fire they could not put out. It burned itself out. They did what was correct. They protected the exposures. So my point being, we need to make sure we have at least 3 firefighters on this down here, so we at least have a fighting chance to put enough water on a small incipient fire before it grows to a large fire. So that's that piece of it. Second piece is, I don't know, is everyone aware of the issue we had on North Anderson last week, where the tractor trailer delivering roof trusses blocked the road?
No.
So I was stuck in that. Now, for a while, you could get around it, which wouldn't affect response times. We need to make sure that we're adequately staffed on our end of the island, because we're down here by ourselves with no help coming to both fire and EMS personnel. We need paramedics down here 24/7, riding the fire engine, not on the transport unit, so they stay down here. Make sure that our citizens are protected with advanced life support. Oh, thanks.
I'm glad that fire wasn't the weekend before. And just to respond a little bit to the EMS, we have been in contact and are continuing to stay in contact with the county. Their restructuring process is going on now. We want to make sure we're being heard and that we have a response to hear of our population. Preaching to the choir, basically. We're good.
I'm all about educating people.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. The mayor's minute, it's gonna be a little bit different. Right now, I'm gonna kind of change things up because you want to hear me talk, you want to hear information that is pertinent to what you deal with. And, there's a couple of things, that I've been keeping up with, and a lot of it is FEMA. And FEMA right now is in turmoil. They're not sure what they're doing, and fortunately, Congressman Riser is leading the charge to help clean that up. And I'm so thankful for that. We're getting a good response from their office. They're being very helpful, and maybe, we've got them going, and so I'm hoping that's gonna work. But just to give you an illustration, in the western part of the county, they were not prepared for storms like we have to prepare for.
Talking
And,
about the western part of the state.
sorry, western part of the state. Western part of the state, when Helene hit, they weren't ready. They didn't have a savings account. They didn't, they weren't prepared for something like that. So their payment right now to work through the FEMA's reimbursement program, no grants, you have to pay first. They're in the hole about $45 million. And that's one county, and their overall budget is only 32 million. So they're having to find money, somehow by borrowing or whatever, hook and crook, I'm not sure what, sell bait. But, to find enough money to pay the contractors to repair so they can go back into business. And that interest on that money is not reimbursable by FEMA. So we need to be prepared. And that kind of leads into tonight. During the campaign, if topics are brought up and things are explained, and sometimes they're misinterpreted by many people. And a lot of it has to do with our budget and what people have been thinking about. Are we ready for issues such as Helene coming through? Are we prepared? Is our budget too excessive in certain areas? And I can speak all day, but the person that really knows our budget is Connie. And so Connie has prepared a little bit of thing to try to explain where we are and where that money sits in our budget and how it got there. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The town of Topsail Beach fund balances are created by several primary funds. We have the 10 fund, which is our general fund that is used to pay all expenses. Our 24 fund is our CIP fund for capital projects that is used for capital improvement. And sometimes we even call reserve fund. The 25 fund is the beach inlet and sound that covers our beach inlet and sound expenditures for our beach projects, our 30-year project. Our enterprise fund or water fund covers our water operations. The town board has a fund balance policy that lists the requirements to maintain the minimum balance for these funds. The reason behind establishing this fund balance policy was in 2015, the town received a letter from the state stating the fund balance to our general fund had dropped down to 15%, a very large decline from previous years. The town was then instructed to develop a plan moving forward to immediately address this decline. The decline was due to a 10.3 million beach project that we had just finished. The town was due $1,583,173 from FEMA. Well, guess what? We did not receive that until after July 1st. Therefore, the town was responsible for paying the dredging contractor. So we had to pay the bill from town funds until we could receive FEMA reimbursement. Each municipality must establish their own fund balance policy, and that's based upon our individual needs and circumstances using the local government commission's guidance. Our needs here at Topsail Beach are very different from our coast, that we're on our coastal location than say if we lived in Wallace or Raleigh. A cash fund policy, balance policy was adopted on July the 13th, 2016 by the town board, designating that 50% of the budgeted expenses coming out of the general fund would be set as a minimum reserve. This is similar to when you have financial planners that suggest your families need a 6 months household expense emergency fund. The policy addresses the general fund as well as the water fund. This policy does not let me iterate, does not include the beach inlet and sound reserves. The allocations to the BIS fund are set by the town board based on the 30-year beach management plan. And as you know, every year during the budget time, we review this process, and we had a very extensive review this last budget. In 2015, general fund had, in 2015, if the general fund had not had the money to finish the beach project bills, we would have been delayed and we would have paid punitive damages to the contractor, the dredging contractor, which would have been incurred at a very high rate each day based on the terms of the contract. Another example of why we maintain the reserves in the general fund is we just finished our beach project in March of 2024. And it was, the last bill was in the amount of $5,307,328.96. There were not insufficient funds were in the BIS. We did not have enough money. So the general fund paid the bill. The expectation was that we receive FEMA funds to reimburse us. Based on our historical reimbursement for sand loss, we calculated that we would receive $6 million in FEMA funds for Hurricane Isis. And after that claim was submitted to FEMA, we developed different guidelines in which they calculated the loss of our sand. We only received for the reimbursement after 2 appeals, $1,619,600.34. That created an unexpected and unbudgeted expense for Beach Inlet and Sound Fund in the amount of $4,380,399.66. Thankfully, we had our policy in place and we could absorb this. To borrow money, the local government commission has to give the town approval to the towns for anything over $500,000. This process takes 30 days or more, and we did not have the luxury of that time. Again, if the town had not had the unassigned fund balance, we would have been in a very bad position. The town would be ready. The town must be ready for a disaster when it occurs. It is not a question of if, but when we have another storm. The town must have funds for general operations, as well as funding for up to 75% of any anticipated FEMA reimbursement. This reimbursement could take months, sometimes years, to be received. The town has checks and balances in place for protection. The mayor and the commissioners get a monthly bank reconciliation and a statement of fund balances. The mayor countersigns the checks, as well as the town manager, as well as the town is audited at the end of every fiscal year. A separate audit is performed for grant money received from both the federal government and the state, or the Office of State Budget and Management. In addition, the town contracts with Goodson and Taylor to review bank reconciliation and other financials during the quarter or earlier. This is required by the state's local government commission. Bear in mind that special funding, such as that we received for the public safety building, the $8 million, is in a segregated account. Lastly, the town is like many of our seasonal businesses. We get the bulk of our revenue from our ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem tax bills are sent out at the end of September or the 1st of October. The money is collected mostly in December through February, with more than 50% of our annual revenue coming in November through January. So not only do we need the requisite of 50% minimum dedicated by the board in general fund and water fund at all times at our fiscal year end of June 30th. The town needs cash on hand to pay these bills from July to November when expenses exceed the revenue. That is approximately $2 million for that period of time, that 5 months, just for general operations. We will always have more cash on hand at the year end than the reserves and the funds for the cash flow timing. Our goal is complete financial transparency. The town webpage provides a wealth of information. The audit, the budget message, the budget ordinance, and the approved budget are all found in the town website. The monthly financials and the breakdown of each fund balance are also found on the town website. If anyone needs assistance of how to find those things, we are certainly here 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and we'll be glad to assist anyone. Thank you.
Aren't you glad I didn't do it? I had to stand and everything. But that's something I'd like to start. There are things in the town that where you want more information or there's more conversation that's needed. If topics like the fire department or the police and fire department, how that's going, the fire truck. Maybe give an example of where we are on the fire truck at certain times and any other part of our division and our delivery of services would be the best. And so if you have a topic that you want to hear more of, let us know and we'll collect the data. But given that, we'll move things along. Approval of the regular agenda.
Like any additions, corrections? If not, I'll make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Have a motion to second to approve the regular agenda. All in favor? Aye. Conflict of interest. John Beth, we'll start with you.
The conflict.
The conflict. Yeah. No conflict. Approval of consent agenda.
Approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion to second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. No public hearings, Chris Gibson.
So we are having a little bit of difficulty getting Chris on. But we will record it. And once we post the video tomorrow, then we will also post Chris's portion of the video as well.
So we need to stop the meeting for,
No, it's just the meeting can continue, but for anyone who's watching live currently, they're going to be paused until Chris is finished with his portion.
okay.
So they'll just have to stand by, know we're coming back. Stay tuned.
Okay, 9 and 10, both are.
Yeah.
Connected to Chris, so we
Yeah.
can hold on those.
Well, I think we go ahead. We
Go
just,
ahead.
yeah, we're ready to move forward. We have to pause the live streaming. Tomorrow, full video will be available with Chris's portion, because those who are viewing live will miss that tonight. Okay? So just. Okay.
Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
We're gonna try to turn you up a bit. Thank you for joining us, Chris. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
All right, am I there?
Yep. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I've got you.
All right, we're gonna try to get the audio up just a little bit. Give us a second.
You might have to.
Can you
speak up.
turn up on this?
Can you speak up a little louder? I apologize.
Yeah, can you hear me all right now?
We can hear you, but you're very low.
Okay, I don't know what to do.
That's already better.
Okay. You ready for me to get started or?
Yes, thank you for joining us, Chris.
Okay, I'm gonna get my ugly mug off the screen and share some, what I'm here to do tonight is present the information we found from the post-storm survey, what happened on the beach, and also talk about the comments that were made earlier about where the project starts and stops. I'd like to address that too, Mayor, if you don't mind, while I'm doing this and have the maps out. So I'm going to share my screen now and we'll go from there. See if that, no, I don't want to add any background. Share content. Include sound. Yes. Oh, share. Share content. Screen. Okay, did that get it? Did y'all see what? Okay, so this is a general map of the whole project area. The red lines are the channels in the back that we monitor, as well as you can see the 5 sheets across the screen here. That's broken up into what the areas that we survey. We do go from all the way down at the inlet when we do our surveys. Right at the inlet, we do survey lines every 500 feet. And then as we get up toward the
Chris, you muted yourself. Chris, you muted yourself.
am I back?
There you go.
You're back.
Your screen. Am I talking now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, and now I see where to do it when I'm talking. Okay, so going back, this is an overall view of the project. The 7 sheets across, or 5 sheets across the bottom there show the beach area that we worked on, and then the red lines are the channels in the back. We survey from down at the very tip of the island. We survey in 500-foot intervals until we get up to the Serenity Point condo area, and then it's every 1,000 foot from there to the Bumblebee Tower in Surf City. One of the questions, if you're looking on the screen here, was where the project starts. Earlier was brought up, and there was some folks that were talking about it, believe that the project actually starts at McLeod. It does not. It starts where my cursor is here at Station 0. That is the bottom end of the project. And then there's a taper between there. It ties back in between there and about station -300. On the last project, when we did disposal, this bottom area right in here, this area along here, that was full. So we didn't place any material there last time. So that may be a reason for the confusion. But the management project does go all the way down, full template down to Station 0. We survey out to the 30-foot contour offshore to measure any sand losses and the depth of closure, which is where FEMA has, and we've agreed with FEMA that any sand that stays within the depth of closure might come back on the beach. Even if it's lost from the beach, it's still in the system. That is out at 17 feet. So that's here. This right here where my cursor is, it's a 15-foot contour, then the 20-foot contour. So in the 17-foot contour area is where we're really measuring sand from. I'm going to kind of scan through these real quick. These are the contours and then look at the profiles. These are the contours for surveys for the lines that we did. Going up through there, we surveyed every 1,000 feet. And then we look at these in profile views. So we take and we overlay the data. Where did it go? Go back. I'm sorry. My fingers are horrible on this touchpad. So what I want to show here is, God dang it. You can't imagine what it is. Neuropathy and touchpads, they don't get along. I have to answer my phone with my nose sometimes. And that's an actual truth. So these are the profiles that we did before the storms in the summer that we normally do, is the blue line. And then the red line is what we did post-storm. The black line on here that you see, like this line here, this is the template that we try to build, not fully maintained, but that's what we build during each nourishment project. This area here is all the way down at the very southern end. This one here is Station 0. This would be Station 1, which is at McLeod. Most of the erosion that we had was actually down in Serenity Point. What's happening is, and we knew this would happen starting from the beginning, that spit would kind of recurve around and fill back in toward the back. It would push the channels around. Part of the management program is to keep the inlet, the main channel of the inlet in the same place. So we're not lengthening the island anymore as we have this movement from north to south of sand. Some of the really interesting stuff as we go through this, really the erosion, these top two, come on, Chris. Okay, these top two lines up here, 2,000, 3,000 is right about at the Sea Vista. So this is where we had the most erosion and the scarping. Something that is interesting to note here, if you'll see both the red and blue lines are above the black line. That's because we have actually had dune growth since 2021 when we initially built that dune. On average, the dune has grown vertically about 3 feet and has grown anywhere from 25 to 80 feet wide, 80 feet extra width since the project was built. For instance, here on this one, you can see all of this upper elevation above what we built here. We built elevation 5. All of this sand here is naturally accreted because of the plantings that we did and the natural growth of the sea base. Again, the erosion is mostly down here in this lower 3,000 foot. As we get farther up, what we see is that in many places we actually have still more beach and more dune than we actually try to maintain. And part of that is because when we did the last project, it was for navigation purposes, not for necessarily for beach erosion purposes. So we actually overbuilt the template last time, and that actually created a surplus of sand. And so we still have, as we go through this, let me see, section here, 90, this one here is right at the pier. Actually, it's this one here. This is the pier. And then these are going north of the pier. And as we go north of the pier and up through Queens Grant, you can see that we actually have more sand than our base template throughout the beach and dune section. So we still, even after the storm, we have a very healthy beach. So these are all the cross sections there. We have had, as throughout the life of the project over the last 4 years, we've had losses up here in the very northern 1,500, 1,800 feet. And that has to do with just end losses that we have of sand moving into Surf City during the southwest winds, particularly in the summer. So from that, this is a sheet that shows the volumes by every 1,000-foot increment, how much we either gained or lost throughout the period in each section. And so you can see right down here between 0 and 1,000, we lost 24,000 yards down there. We lost 11,000 in the north in the next 1,000 foot. Then we gained 11,000 yards and 18,000 yards over the next two. Then we lost some more as we went on up toward the pier. And then after we got up to the pier, we got accretional until we had some losses right here, which is at Queens Grant, either side of Queens Grant. That's always a nose that always kind of gets bumped a little bit. And then we had accretion until the very north end and the rest of it. Total, we only lost 48,000 yards of sand from that particular storm. We average about 250,000 yards of loss a year. That's the projected for the project. So overall, we did pretty good there. From a financial perspective, what that would mean if there was a declaration, and honestly, I don't believe there is going to be one. Parsing that out to do this 48,000 yards by itself, the big ticket item on it is really mobilization. These unit costs in here and mobilization are based on the waterway contract that was just issued a couple of weeks ago with the Corps of Engineers. The particular size dredge we would need, we projected would take about a month. Total cost, counting everything that would be input, that we would ask for a grant for would be 2.687 million. But again, it requires a declaration, and I really don't see Pender County having enough overall losses from this event to create that. One of the other things I wanted to bring up here, if I can get my right, let's see, Topsail channels. So I also want to talk about the channels because everybody's always kind of interested in those and what's happening there. So as we look at these, we got some nice color pictures, which are fairly easy to read. Blue is deeper water, going greens up in the yellows, oranges, and reds is obviously shallower. You can see how, looking at this, how the channel, oops, sorry guys. You can see in here that we've got a lot of shoal in this area. There's a big flat out there. William Snyder was telling me the other day, he was down there and there were tons of trucks that were parked down here at low tide that were a considerable distance, stop moving, considerable distance from the inlet. There's plenty of room down here. But what you're seeing is the beach kind of being here in the inlet. When you have those king tides, it tends to peel sand off of the tip, and it comes back here and it curls back in. If you've looked at Serenity Point as it's grown over the past 40 years, each one of these ridges is a time where sand in some event was pulled back and then was gradually became dunes over time. And that's what the inlet tries to do, is to try to add an extra shoal here and recurve and migrate. Long term, we're going to keep the inlet here in the same. This is the position we dredged it in, these lines back in 2023, 2024. And we dredged through here as well. Obviously, this is pushed back, going more toward what the channel was before we started the project back in 2011. We originally did not want to come right along the back of the island. We wanted to take more of an angle like this and follow the old channel around. And the Corps put the kibosh on that. So because a channel had opened up in 2011 right there during Irene. So they wanted us to go down the back of the island, and that's what we've done and have been managing. This goes to show Topsail Creek as well. Is pretty much open, except for this is getting a little shallow in here. And the Corps is actually coming with the sidecaster to dredge this little bump here. I don't know if they're there yet. I know they were talking to Christina about coming and docking up at the assembly building while they did that. So that's coming in the next few weeks. But we still have clear path water for the guys that are fishing out of Topsail. You see here we've got almost 7 foot of water, or really 7 foot of water here all the way through. And that is what this channel is federally authorized to. So even if somebody wanted the Corps to come in and dredge, right now they wouldn't, because 7 foot and 80 foot wide is all they're authorized to dig. So we're actually keeping this healthier than they have been. Right now, I don't recommend us doing anything. We're still in good shape on the beach. We still have good protection. We've had wonderfully growing dunes for 3 years, and we still have access to the island, and the limitations on access back to the Intercoastal Waterway are being taken care of by the Corps in the next couple of weeks. So that's kind of my report on what happened during the storm. If there are any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
Questions from the board?
Really very little damage from that storm.
We were very, very blessed in that storm. We had very little damage. It was really only at the ends of the project that were in losses. In the middle, some swashing around of sand, but really very little lost out of the system, except for at the very north end and the very south end. So the beach did very well. We still have, like I said, even in the places where we lost, we still have at or very close to the design criteria, and nothing in any one of the sections that would trigger the need for a nourishment event in an emergency style. So we're still in good shape there. And the other thing to report on is next week, our 30-year plan goes before the CRC for approval. And at that point, we will have for 5 years an exemption to the static line. And so the coastal construction line and auxiliary construction line that y'all approved several months ago, that will become the ruling as far as beachfront construction goes into the future. Great thing about that, when that happens, that will be, we will have every developed property on Topsail Beach will be conforming to CAMA standards. Everybody will have a minimum of 60 foot of setback from the first line of stable vegetation. So we're very excited about having a town, helping a town get to that point, because we were not nearly there when we started this 14 years ago.
Chris, this is John Gunter. Could
Yes, sir.
you, going back to the inlet survey, could you just comment on how we fared relative to the other beaches, particularly those with inlets? And did we do better? And if so, do you know why?
So yeah, we fared very well compared to the other local beaches. If you've seen images of Wrightsville Beach, there was about a 5-foot scarp the whole length of the beach down there. And as well, if you've obviously folks have seen the information about the north end up at North Topsail Beach, and they got whack-a-mole pretty bad, especially up there by the St. Regis. They're putting in emergency sandbags now. It got within 3 feet of the foundation of the south building. And they were out there during the storm pushing with a bulldozer to keep that from getting undermined. So one of the reasons
why we did better than the others.
Sure, and figure eight in the central part of the island did the same. Part of it is how we build the beaches is a little bit different than the federal government. We don't look at the beach as a levee and where we're trying to just keep water out. What we look at the beach part of it is that is a place to remove energy. And then the dune is your last line of protection, not your first. So by doing that, what happens is instead of the sand beating against the edge of the beach berm and actually carving it out and gravity helping that sand fall, we build the beach low enough that the water will actually overtop, but the waves have broken far offshore and there's very little energy. So in order to erode sand, it has to pick sand up rather than knock it down. So gravity works against it rather than with it. It's a technique I learned down in Florida about 30 years ago. A company I worked for, we started building beaches a little lower and saw a lot less erosion because of that. And typically trying to match what the nature's doing. And also, if you build it too low, the ocean will actually whoop it up. When you have a little bit of an event, it will throw the sand up onto the beach berm. And we had places in this storm where we had 1.5 to 2 foot of buildup against the dune, where the waves actually pushed sand up on the beach because it was getting over it rather than cutting into the edge of the dune and knocking it down. I think one of the reasons we fared better in the inlet than others is that we're actually one of the things I thought was a guiding principle in how we designed the inlet was the fact that before we had the Intercoastal Waterway, this was a river system. There were transatlantic ships going in and out of Topsail Inlet during the Civil War. They were going out of Mason's Inlet. They were going out of Rich's Inlet. These were all little rivers that, they were shallower at the top end than they were at the bottom. When they put the Intercoastal Waterway in, it switched the way sand flows. It made it so that these bays were flood dominant. So more water, more sand came in on the flood tide than went out and had the velocity going out on the ebb tide. So what you've seen over the last 100 years is sand coming from the beaches and going into the waterway. What we've done here is we've made it so that the waterway is actually shallower than the inlet. And so we're seeing an outflow. And one of the things we saw in the summer survey we were talking about was in Banks Channel in particular, when we got the aerials, we got a really crisp set of aerials this year. And you could see how the sand waves in the shoals had switched directions. Used to, they would point where the face of those sand waves was faced inland, and now they're facing outland. So we see sand migrating from up channel and coming down because we've changed the current patterns in the back. So I think taking this back to a more natural system that it was like before the waterway and some other things has really been beneficial to the island.
I appreciate that explanation, Chris. We benefit tremendously from your long years of experience and your interest in Topsail Beach, I tell you. And you and Jamie. Jamie gives great explanations like that also. So thanks.
Yeah. And I'd like to throw a shout out to Jamie while we're talking about him. He actually got his professional engineer's license about a month ago. So he's been a professional geologist and studied all summer long and sat for his test. And now he's a professional engineer as well.
I'll tell you what, if you missed the last PIS meeting, you missed a great presentation and discussion by Jamie about these same things.
Yeah. So, but glad to be able to do this for you. And thank you for letting me take care of my home beach for the last decade and a half. It's been a lot of fun.
Keep doing it.
Any additional questions?
No.
Okay. We'll move into the next. Chris, if you would, hang on a little bit I'm gonna need your help on this one.
Okay.
This is discuss the side flooding. We've talked about it, studied it, and I think we've identified it's really happening. So I think now it's time to maybe take it one more step further. We got some prices back, of course, to look at our flooding from rain events, and it cost us astronomical. So we know we can't do it all, but we need to try to look at how we can take a bite out of it. And it may be something simple. It may be something that's done year after year that we can do to stop the flooding. And one of the things that we've got is in-house right now, or at least the data is available, mainly to look at side flooding. This is coming from tidal flooding, not rain. But it's we have a LiDAR system, which is basically a survey of the entire side. And that gives us data of elevation of every bulkhead, every shoreline, some of the docks that are in there. And that's critical when we're looking at why something's flooding. And if something flooding in yard A might be caused by something five properties down that's low, but the water's trickling through to get to that point, and that's the low point, and water can't get back out. So I'm hoping that I can send this over to the BIS committee, add to their load, to have them work with TI Coastal to look at how we can identify the topo of this area or the elevations and create a model or interpretive model that we can figure out if we put a seawall at the end of one of our roads to stop some of the flooding from overtopping. What will that do to the adjacent properties? And are we trying to solve one problem but creating two or three more? And we just need to know that data, and that's one of the things that can be done. And then even when you join that with our tide gauge, elevation gauge at Bush Marina, and also some of the NOAA data, that it can be interactive. So at any storm event or high tide that we think is coming in at a certain level, the owner or the town can dictate where the flooding is going to be and how deep it's going to be, and the interval that it's going to happen at the time. So that gives someone a chance, if they've got to need to remove something on their lower unit, they can do it and have time to do it. So that's another option. But Chris, help me here as to what's available and what we could actually use this for and how it could work.
So, we provided this data to you guys, I think it was about 3 years ago. It was right at the end of Mike Rose's term. We went and did a survey of the whole back of the island using our boat mounted LiDAR. And what that allowed us to do was actually, while NGS or NOAA comes through and they do it about every 8 or 9 years, they'll do a whole LiDAR of the upland. They do have issues getting through the trees and seeing under the houses and that kind of thing that are in that, heavily vegetated area in the back. We were actually able, because we were shooting from only 20 feet off the water level, we were able to shoot up into the yards, up into the back of the houses, and really kind of fill out and augment what NOAA had done. With that data too, we were able to actually shoot all of the bulkheads. So it got data on the face of the bulkheads. We know what every top of bulkhead, every top of, front of the yard, if somebody's not bulkheaded, what those elevations are. And so what we can do, I think we talked about this before, you and I did, Mayor, was that we can go through and take that data and take the tide gauge at bushes and also like the predictive data from NOAA. So with this data, we've got contours that we can say this particular yard is elevation 4, and this part of this yard is elevation 4, or these yards are all 5 to 6 foot, but this road is at elevation 4, and so it's going to come up through the drains and come into the road like it does down on Carolina at times. And so we can actually put that where there is some prediction. You can tie that together where somebody can click on an area and say, okay, well, we've got a king tide coming in 3 weeks. Is this one going to get me? Yes, I'm predicted to have 8 inches of water or whatever in my front yard. Is it going to get up to my house? Yes, I can't have stuff on the floor in my garage during this week. As we start trying to physically manage that by like putting in seawalls at the end of, there's a lot of work that y'all have been doing down at Rocky Mount and looked at a couple other places. The question is, when you start trying to keep water out from the tides, you start keeping water in from the rain. So how do you manage that? And that's going to be, it can be managed. I mean, all of Holland is below sea level. So there are ways to do it, but it's going to be whether it's an economically viable option. Are you going to be able to put in, like I think in Surf City, some of their rainwater stuff, they're actually collecting it and pumping it over into places that are actually uphill but are underground storage drainage. Is that an option for you guys to do some kind of infiltration where you're actually going uphill with rainwater but are able to keep tide water out? I thought originally when the folks started looking at Rocky Mount that some sort of solution like that was going to come out of that, but I don't think it fully developed to where you had both sides of that rain and tidal. And correct me because I'm not completely versed on what's happened at Rocky Mount, but I know that was one of the issue down there along like where Mr. Howard's property is, your brother. Where his property is, that it's kind of, it comes up and then it gets low again. Water gets up in there and then it kind of stays up there. So how do you deal with that? We certainly can look at that and we certainly can get folks involved that are even more versed than us. But as far as looking at the data and how we can have that information available to people, I think we can certainly handle that and certainly give you some solutions to the tidal stuff, but we really do need to balance that with somebody that's maybe a little better with hydrology to make sure we don't create a problem when fixing one.
Yeah, I think in the hydraulic end of it, looking at small things like going to each pipe and putting not a cap, but I forget what they're called now.
Flapper valve?
Yeah, valve, to keep water from coming back in and only going out. That might satisfy some of it. They cut the edge off. And then we can quantify the rainwater coming down so we know the volumes we can deal with. But still, you're right. Our only outlet is the sand in the ground. So we don't have a river or stream to tie into. So, but my goal is to get this over to BIS and have them work with you to vet this further and maybe see what the cost is. So, we're not doing a plan or investing money that doesn't get us anything or doesn't go anywhere. So just trying to be cautious. And so I appreciate the the information on it, and I hope you have more to do. And it's really a choice by this board and direction, not necessarily a vote, but just, do we want to go down this line and let BIS take it over for us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion?
Don't think we need
The
a
motion is that they send it to them.
Yeah, just send it to them and let them come back with
Yeah.
suggestions. Okay, so I think that's our direction.
Well, that's great. And I certainly, I think over the years, I've shown we certainly don't want to spend your money wastefully. And I don't want to put, good money after bad or go do a study just for study's sake. That doesn't do anybody any good. If we can't wrap our heads around a solution early on, then we need to just own up to that. One of the things I would like for folks to kind of remember, one of the things that's probably hurt y'all over the past 25, 30 years is, when we had the whiteout in Fran and we came back and scraped all of the roads, before Fran, the roads were usually higher than the properties. So they've got water off of the roads and into the yards where it could infiltrate into the yards. But now the roads are lower than the yards because the sand was scraped off the roads, but you couldn't go into the yard and take the sand out. So it's created an asphalt bottom ditch out of the roads. So, that may be something that, again, getting a hydrologist involved in, and how do we get that water back underground like it used to do, may really be some of the solution to the rainy day issue. And I think Surf City headed in the right direction with that. So certainly talking to them and trying to get information on how their systems are working, and maybe come off of that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Chris.
A lot of the lots are being built up too, which also.
So I'm catch 22.
Yeah, that's what it's.
Just so you know, we are back live again. So
Oh,
for those that are tuning in, we'll have that portion that was paused online tomorrow.
okay. On item 11, discuss and consider vote on land use plan. Stephanie?
Wes.
West.
Divert left. You got the target on you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Board, for having me back. We are here to discuss and potentially consider adoption, possibly finally, of the town's land use plan. Happy to answer any particular questions. I hope that you all received an editorial version of the modified future land use district. Christina did a great job, and Stephanie worked with them on ensuring this, the Division of Coastal Management put their eyes on this, also Coastal Land Trust. And then lastly, Attorney Coggins also made sure to review this as well. Mr. Mayor, as you mentioned before, this is of course a guidance document. It's not regulatory. However, it is important to make sure this aligns with the current status of the South End. So that's all I have. Happy to answer other questions. I don't know if Attorney Coggins has anything to say.
I don't think the intent, the wording, I guess.
I communicated that page to the person who brought it up as a question at the last meeting. And he had already looked at it and he said it's fine with him now, so we're good.
Okay. Would be well if you did highlight what are material changes in the land use plan from the previous one, like 4 bullet points, maybe about how it materially differs from the previous one.
And so your current one, I will say that most part, a lot of it is very similar. So as you all know, and as has been mentioned already during public comment, and I've heard many years, folks value the way Topsail Beach is today. They want it to continue to be that way in 20 years. So there's a lot of review of the policy and strategy to ensure that that can continue to be the case. I would say that the most probably substantial difference is discussion about the South End in particular. We had nearly 750 folks participate in a survey and provide comment on this, on what they believe to be important about town of Topsail Beach, and that's all incorporated into this draft plan that we did start back in 2020. And so I hope maybe that helps provide a little bit of feedback. In terms of procedure, these are now required to be adopted by ordinance. Should the board decide to do so. Once it were to be adopted, it would then be sent to Local Resources Commission for final certification.
This was, here last month, and the concern was the wording, about the citation, and that came through the public hearing. So we concluded the public hearing on this, so we're
Yes, sir.
ready for a vote. Do I have any discussion further, or do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we adopt the land use plan as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion to second, all in favor? Approved. Thank you, Wes, and
Mr. Mayor, can I ask?
Yes.
What do I understanding is the plan CRC review meet again?
So now these are the district planner, and he schedules it, and there is more or less a consent agenda item, but I'm not entirely sure. But I can certainly, I will find out and refer back to the town as soon as I know this would be potentially considered for
I would
certification.
appreciate it, because when you look online, the 2026 schedule isn't published yet.
Yes, sir. I
Make planning very difficult.
understood. Yes, I'm aware. Thank you. Thank you all. And, I appreciate it. Again, it's been a pleasure working with you guys through this.
and just to know that I know you're now in private practice,
Yes, sir.
but yet, please don't forget us if we need help.
I
please be available.
don't think that's, possible. Been through a lot over the years, so, and I'm grateful to be able to continue the relationship here with the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Update on Parks and Recreation Board.
Had no meeting, so there's no updates.
We'll take the planning board.
Still short and sweet. The planning board met for their regular meeting on October 22nd to discuss the reference admirable regs and make suggestions for staff to recommend the board doing. And their next meeting is scheduled for November 19th at 10 a.m.
Questions for Stephanie? Thank you very much. BIS committee. William's out, but I think he sent in.
He is out, and I won't read the entire update because we were able to get it earlier today. And it's distributed to the board and as well as on line. So everyone can read that at their leisure. I just do want to point out that the next BIS meeting has been rescheduled from the 19th to the 18th. So there's a little schedule change with that. It is on our website that it's been changed, but just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
And I'd like to let everybody know that William was appointed to the North Carolina Byway Board last meeting. So that's a nice for him to do that, because it is a lot of work, and it improves our connection to that organization.
He's also tonight, going to his training as a new board member to the North Carolina Coastal Land Trust. For his role in the South End, no good deed goes unpunished. So he's now on their board, which is good. Yeah.
And we did attend the NC Byways, and I tell you, everybody's had the same problem we've got. We're not alone in this battle, and it looks like sand is the big issue. And finding good sand, how it's calibrated, and how it's not. And so that's been an issue, and they're trying to resolve that. FEMA is still an issue, and they say they're making progress, and we're hoping they will.
everybody's dealing with flooding, just like we are, just like this conversation we just had.
Yeah, we saw a lot of diagrams of flooding and how it goes over, but no one had a solution. And so they're all trying different things.
There was one presentation talking about, the impact of flooding on sewers and septic. Remember this? Yeah. One of the things they're doing is counting the birds on the telephone wire up above the floods, so they can see how that relates to fecal measurements in the drinking water. Worry about those birds. Oh, yeah, the poop bag of the dog, flooded down, flooded in the flood.
There was one presentation where they, this gentleman out of the western part of the state, presented on dredging and how to use foreign dredge is several of them and how they can do a better job at a cheaper rate. Well, that didn't go over well. Several of our, political representatives kind of raked him over the coals with some of the state officials. So that was interesting. I've never seen anyone challenged like that. Yeah. Mr. Williams, we did. Public safety building. John, you want to take this one? The meeting today?
Well, sure, I can do that. Yeah. I'll look at some of my notes on it. Yes, we had another meeting today with the Thomas Construction crowd and Becker Morgan, who are the designers, just to update and talk about a couple of specific things that were on both our mind and their mind. The first question that Frank asked right out the gate was, do we need to worry about meeting the 9.6 million? Are we going to be okay on that? We cannot run over that. And Michael Bryson, who is the project manager for Thomas, responded that we're not going to run over. They're very well aware of that. They're looking at things really closely, but he led us to believe that he's very confident that they'll meet the 9.6 million. And Nancy, you agree with that?
He knows that we can't go a penny over it. And if we get close, we get the scalpel and start cutting.
Exactly. She made that very clear again at the end. One of the big things that has changed, and y'all may not realize this because it's not really that big a thing, but we have been talking about having electric heaters in the apparatus phase. They're called them chicken wire heaters. And after looking at things, they figured that we're much better off using gas heaters to keep the bays up to a temperature that is comfortable and suitable for having a wet irrigation system in there. So they're looking very closely at switching over from the electric to bringing gas in. We had been talking about we're not going to have gas in this building at all. But now it looks like we will. And so there was a lot of discussion about where we locate the gas tank. It's going to be underground, we believe, and how that affects things like the generator that's going to be out back, the size of the generator will be, and so on. So there was a lot of discussion about gas versus electric and the location of some of the things outside of the building. And then there was discussion about the septic systems. We've been worried about will we run over what was a $30,000 or $35,000 allocation in the Thomas calculations to put in the septic system. In the last month or 6 weeks, we've had the consultant who designed septic systems come look at the site, and he has decided that it is appropriate for us to put the peat system that a lot of residential places are using now. So that'll be visible above ground, just like they are in residences, but it can go behind the fire station, which is technically the side of the fire station now, but it would be in between the building and Carolina Boulevard, which is immediately on the other side. And we figured out how to put the peak system in. We believe that we're going to look to have it done locally, and Thomas has agreed that if we want to have a local contractor do that, he's willing to let that come out of the contract that he has with Topsail and let us handle that independently. So that was a plus for us. What else did we talk about? The location of the septic and the electrical.
The generator, Sam pointed out, just for a little light humor, that having the generator on a large stand directly across from a bar might not be the best idea. It could be vulnerable, which we hadn't looked at that, so maybe move it somewhere else on the property so that it's not a traffic hazard.
Plus it was outside his window.
No, it was all about the
I know.
leaving the bar,
I know.
not really.
And the last point I would make is that we believe we're on schedule. There's a whole bunch of intermediate points, but we believe we're on schedule to have the final contract with Thomas about late spring and construction starting in May. I'm sorry, August. So it'd be mid to late August would be when they believe they're going to be ready to start construction. So that was the gist of the meeting today. And I would say again, at the end of the meeting, Nancy made it very clear, you cannot run over 9.6. If you think you're going over that, we're going to start taking a knife and cutting out little pieces until we get it down to 9.6. You cannot do 9,650,000. So those were her exact words. And Michael was sitting there saying, yep, I understand. So I think we're on track.
We're moving forward. The next step, I think, I think the second week after Thanksgiving, they're gonna have most of their DD drawings, which is design development, so they can get the next generation of firm contracts. So this is the good thing about design build, that we in real time, we're getting prices back from contractors. So we're not gonna just bid it out and, oh, surprise, we'll know as we go into it. So we'll keep updating.
And it's about a 10 to 12 month construction period. Is that correct, John?
We didn't talk about that today,
But they have said in the past, so it'll come online June or somewhere between June and August after they break ground.
Any questions on what I went through there? Okay.
Item 16, discuss proposed amendment to property addressing and display ordinance. Oh, you're back.
All right. At the September Board of Commissioners meeting, staff presented changes for the addressing ordinance. After some discussion, the board asked staff to do more research of other towns' ordinances. After that meeting, the decision was made to send the text amendments to the planning board for suggestions. At their September and October meetings, the planning board spent a great amount of time going over each line of the ordinance and made their final suggestions. They recommended that we keep the current ordinance with a few minor changes. Also, upon further research, staff discovered that the current North Carolina Building Code requirement for address numbers is 4 inches. Our ordinance only requires 3 inches, and staff recommends that we also make that change to become compliant with the current building code.
So the document that we got, said 3 inches in the text, you're gonna change that to 4.
Right. So what I'm presenting you is what the planning board suggested, with just the date changes.
Yeah.
So after that was found, then I added that, to make that change.
Yeah, in section A, the very first, you have a minimum of 3 inches in height.
Right.
We just need to change that to
To
4.
4, yes.
So no green reflective sign on the side of, thank you.
Yeah,
Should we change
last
the-
thing it says, it shall be a violation of this, if you do it, don't do it. So what is the penalty if you don't do it?
So there is a fine,
There is one we have on.
we have a $50 fine. So that is the fine that we paid for that, but there are also other things, like it's a code enforcement violation, so we do have, in a fee schedule, that if, your first violation is 50, your second is, I believe, 100, and then 150 for any after that, and it's a daily fine, so it's not, something that's, we just send out a letter and say, here's your one fine for this, it's every day until it's corrected.
When do we think this would go into effect?
So staff has discussed potentially sending out in the sunshine list and everything else of given 90 days for them to get it corrected, have the numbers the right size.
From,
And if you guys vote on this tonight,
Or we can set a specific
yeah, or
date and time, maybe March 1st or, you know.
Set a date and then maybe set a 90-day period that you just agree you're going to give findings. You'll just notify.
right.
we know that we have a very serious responsibility to get notice out to all of our residents. We know how hard that is. We try hard and we have different avenues to get the message out, but we have to notify our residents over and over and over again.
Right.
If we're going forward with this and what we're doing in a very pleasant manner.
You know, the hard part, when you put it in utility bills, people who are buying the draft, like at mine, I just throw it in the draft. And so when you put a notice in there, I think people will overlook it. So we've got to use other avenues in addition.
I would agree that, the notices that we send out for water bills, whether they're on draft or not, don't seem to get noticed. So we'll find a different way. We can do that as well.
Sending to the real estate agents, the real estate companies.
We can also let them know.
Pass it off to the clients.
Well, that's probably, they'll probably be the one doing it. So let's do it on first.
Sure.
That would go.
They would put on there to make sure, because if you have an incident, Sam needs to go, he needs to get nowhere to go, and being fired.
Right.
So, plus on mailboxes, I think, we got some new mailboxes now, we probably know well that.
That's true.
Any additional questions or?
Well, I think explaining to the people the reason we're having to do it, or doing it, is because the safety fire, or police, or rescue. But yeah, for them to be able to locate and get to that place.
That should be in the mailing.
I mean, so people understand we're not just doing it, just so they can have numbers for on the building.
I'd like to thank the planning board for coming back with a very reasonable
Amen.
Yeah, they did a great job.
decision. Thought out.
So, what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a recommendation that we accept the recommendation of the planning board. Staff, the leeway to come up with a time that it needs to be done. And then give a grace period of 90 days before we start finding people.
Can you tell us in one or two sentences what that recommendation is exactly?
The recommendation is that all houses will have a number that is a minimum of 4 inches in height on the house near the entry door. Soundfront and Oceanfront will have one same size on the right side of the building as well, on the sound side or the ocean side.
On the right-hand corner.
Right hand.
Facing from the one.
Well, actually, it can, the furthest structure out. From
The building.
So it can be on the,
Okay.
the wall area.
Okay.
So sound, houses and oceanfront houses need 2 sets of numbers. Is that correct?
Years ago.
Each.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Have a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Near and dear. Carhart, discuss garbage and recycling service.
Go for it. There we
I feel like this is why everyone's here.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, on October 1st, Mayor Braxton, Mayor Pro Tem Zizek, Commissioner Bell, and myself, we met with GFL to discuss some of the issues that we've been having with service since we began with them on July 1st. It was a very good discussion. I think they understood where we were coming from, and they seemed very eager to want to make the corrections for us. And they have improved with their service, but a lot of the issues that we discussed seemed that maybe it would be taken care of by replacing the garbage carts that we have currently. They were in really bad shape. They're actually shaped differently than what today's carts are generally. So there's information about weighted lids and not weighted lids. So it seems that a lot of the issues can be cleared up by replacing the carts. When the town negotiated the contract with GFL, we had told them that they could basically buy the carts from the town because they were in fact taking over all of the maintenance of the carts as well. So it was negotiated in the contract that we would get a reduction in the price per cart. But at the end of the 5-year contract, those carts would then belong to GFL. Well, now we're asking them to come in and replace them all with new or like new carts. So they are agreeing to come in if the town chooses to do so, and replace the carts, a total cart replacement. They would be prepared to begin pretty much as soon as we give them the go-ahead. They could replace about 50 carts each service day, and they would be finished well before July 1st. If we are to agree to that, they would then expect that beginning July 1st of 2026, our cost per cart would increase. We would no longer get that discount that we were originally given. So our price per cart would increase from $9.15 a cart to $9.61 a cart. That's beginning on July 1st, 2026. So that's a difference in the monthly charge of about, I think we're looking at about $800 a month for that increase with the difference in the carts. So there's an annual difference of about $10,000 to do this cart repair or swap.
And if we let them go on their own and replace the carts if they fall apart, is there still a charge?
Well, I mean, they're still responsible for the maintenance of the carts, just as they are today. So if you get a new cart or a GFL cart that's delivered and the wheels fall off or whatever, you would still do the same process of calling our customer service and having that cart replaced.
So if you have an original cart and it falls apart because of the use and they replace it, there's no additional.
You get it free.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think we're going, eventually they'll replace all our carts because they're breaking them all.
Yeah, but this is not a charge to the customer. This is what the town's invoice will be. The contract will be increased from that.
If we wait till 5 years, will our contract then go up to that? Say right now, if we don't do anything, it stays at $9.15.
Correct. And then they
At the end of that 5 years, our contract, does that then go up to $9.61 anyway?
well, no, at the end of 5 years, our contract is expired.
Okay.
The alternate choice to not do this cart replacement as a massive cart replacement is basically to do what we've been doing from July till now is when someone's cart breaks, they call customer service and they get a new or an improved cart. So, I mean, and that will still continue to happen. It's just going to be on a much slower basis. So, the question would be, would we want to do a complete cart swap out in a short time to get everybody on the same, in the same type of cart? And hopefully, then it would really reduce the amount of issues that we're having.
Honestly, I have a new cart that I got 3 weeks ago. I have an old cart. The last 3 trash days, the lids have been open on both carts. I don't see a difference in the quality of them being upright or not, whether you've got a new cart or an old cart. I'll also say, apparently Saturday, GFL delivered new trash carts in Surf City, and there was a dark green one and a neon green one on every residence. They were sitting out in the road.
Yeah.
It looked worse than downtown New York. It was a horrible look. And a lot of those people, they're gonna be here for a while to pull them up. And where they put them, yeah, they were encroaching on the roadway, so
Across the one.
I don't know that going from mass replacement is gonna give us anything.
Would that replacement cost be factored into a new rate for garbage service? They for it?
You know, it's been increased.
I would imagine that would be something that will be discussed at our budget workshops, which we would do generally, of course, discuss the services and, if there needed to be an increase in them. But that, at this point, that would not be, that's not what we're suggesting tonight. Basically, it is, if we do this cart swap, there is going to be an increase in the cart price per cart starting July 1.
I think the problem is not gonna be, and similar to the car. I mean, if you go down Surf City, even the day after they have a lot of cars over at the Topsail. The only reason they're better is because they got a rollback service. Or the town doesn't roll back for them. I think the only way we're gonna solve this problem is if we decide we're gonna do a rollback of some kind. No matter, who's doing it.
Or lower the number of carts by terminating the roadside recycling. That would take, 1,355 carts out of the 3,015 that we got.
But getting out of that contract, according to what our attorney said, is could be an expensive proposition.
But we are allowed, if you look back in the amendment, to fine them $100 an incident for every trash can. Am I correct, Christina, that the lid's off, it's upside down, or it's sideways, or in the road? And I was told nobody's ever fined them.
Oh, we keep.
And I'm not suggesting fine them, but if you went and kept track of that, if I'm not mistaken, it says if the fines equal $6,000 in any month, you have the right to terminate their whole contract. So my thought is just go see, quantify the damage and go to them and say, this isn't working, let us pull back the recycling carts. They still would be paid to haul off recycling. And it looks like they would keep the bulk of what they're making and lose what may be an aggravator for them. And I think it's certainly an aggravator for the residents.
Then talking about trash and recycling, two different issues.
Let me interrupt. I would recommend that any further discussion on these lines take place in closed session.
So maybe.
Good idea.
Regarding the contract?
Yeah.
Okay.
Need a motion to do that?
Yes.
Need a motion to move item 17 to closed session?
So move.
You can do it at this meeting, you can do it at later meetings.
Sure. Let's do the later meeting, let's get a little more information.
Yeah.
I do have another issue that we need to discuss regarding recycling. That's not related to the GFL contract.
Is that what I've been
The billing.
It's the same item.
the same?
It's
Okay.
the same agenda item.
Okay.
So-
Attorney, wait a minute, since it's. That's fine, that's a different subject.
So currently, the way that the recycling is structured with the town, GFL does, in their contract, they have the responsibility to pick up the curbside recycling and bring it to the facility in Jacksonville. And they get paid for that portion of their contract. Then the town has a separate contract with Sunoco Recycling in Jacksonville to process our recyclables. And we get a bill directly from Sunoco for that portion of the recycling. Sunoco's contract will be expiring at the end of this year. Our suggestion, we've had a lot of issues with billing and trying to get it straightened out. Unfortunately, we're so close to North Topsail Beach that just got very skewed with Sunoco. So staff was suggesting maybe that we take Sunoco out of the picture and allow GFL to pick up, take to the recycling center, and then they get the bill and they would just submit to Topsail Beach, one bill per month. So all of the recycling would be handled through GFL. Sunoco would no longer be billing the town separately. There would be an increase to that recycling.
Oh, Paul.
So again, at the end of the 5-year contract, as negotiated, like the trash carts, the recycle carts would also belong to GFL at the end of the 5-year contract. And so therefore, we were given a discounted rate because they weren't doing the processing, and we would, have the carts. So the processing for that, the increase would go from $6.13 a cart to $7.33 a cart. This increase, though, would begin in January if we were to amend the current contract with GFL to include the recycling processing as well.
That's a per month change?
Yes, I mean, it's a per cart change. So monthly, the difference is going to be about $1,600 a month. But remember, we're going to be taking away the portion that we pay to Sunoco now, which is currently about $1,300 a month. Now, also keep in mind that $1,300 a month is just an average because it does depend on the amount of recyclables that go to the facility. So currently, right now, we're averaging about $1,300 a month to Sunoco. That average came from July, August, and September.
So are you saying the net increase is $300 a month?
The net increase is going to be, well, yes, if you take this Sunoco $1,300 a month, it would be basically an increase of $300 a month to go all the way with GFL.
The hassle of dealing with them, $300 a month in hassle.
That's a question for finance.
I mean, and I'm being, if it's creating problems, y'all can say if it's worth $300 a month, paying $300 a month more.
Well, so far it has been very much administrative pain.
Okay.
Because we get things to say, you owe this, no, you've got a credit for this, no, and it's just, but they are working on trying to straighten it out. But the thing is, if we come out of the contract, we have to give them a written notice. So that's the reason this is very
Time sensitive.
time sensitive.
Yeah.
And the contract ends December 31st with Sunoco. And the reason it ends like that is because we started in January. That's how we weren't with GFL then for recycling. We didn't have the 5-year contract.
Would GFL do a 1-year recycling?
No, they will not. I did ask them that question. It would be for 5 years. With no.
Private session.
I guess that was comment about the recycling cars. Collecting parts and hauling them into Sunoco. Is that something we want to continue, discuss?
That, we probably need this whole thing in closed session.
Yes.
You could do that, because I think that's a topic right now. And, or do we go back to our bins? I guess said earlier, since we lost the post office, that might be a local point of the time for conversation. So let's take further in the closed session. So I need a motion to move all of item 17 in the closed session.
Yes.
Motion second, all in favor?
But I think we need to do that soon,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. We need to have
Next
a- Yes, we need to have a special meeting.
Okay, yes, we,
Yes, we will. Just go ahead and-
okay.
Okay, we have your attorney in there. Do the same thing.
I'll make sure you can put it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Item 18, discussion consider vote on proposed amendments to solid waste district.
Well, I almost feel like we need to just hold off on this one.
I make a motion, we pull that one until after the closed session.
You can have a motion to continue this to the next meeting. Need a second? Second. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Please do the next meeting. Then to the end. Manager attorney report. Who's first?
The legislature is rules, that's in October 1, that for a new the legislature recently passed an amendment to chapter 158 in the zoning that prohibits municipalities from doing any more common practice or provides that when you make certain land use decisions tonight, okay, that there's a cooling off period, and in other words, a disappointed party cannot reapply for a period of time, 6 months, a year, very common. Legislature says you can't do that. Now, I do notice that there's at least one provision for that. This is on that. I would recommend that you ask Stephanie, to take a look at that and perhaps it's put up top. Thanks a minute so you can comply with that.
Seems that she's left, would you?
Yes, sir.
I did. Welcome back from Africa. Did you have fun?
It was a working trip, actually.
Were you representing someone there?
Oh, wow.
Well, don't really have anything other than what was already in my written report. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that. Although I do want to point out that on page 2 at the bottom of my written report, there's a new little section in there regarding the Army Corps of Engineers stock, which I think is quite funny. I know that was something that Town Manager Shipley was reporting on monthly. And with his, there was usually no report. I will say that I have been in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers. They are, you can see in the report, they were going to be taking down the dock in May of this summer, and because of the time of the season, they decided to hold off. They are back on that project again. They are currently, let's see, they are currently working with the hydrographic survey group for underwater imagery, and they are awaiting federal consistency determination. So I will be updated after that, but they are moving forward with this, and it's very much a high priority for them to get done before the season.
Doing all this just to remove the column.
Yes. It's very big project.
We got a couple of here.
Chris might be listening to this. Oh, wow.
All I know, unless you have any questions for me.
Tom, do you have anything you want to add?
No. You have any questions for me?
Anyone have questions for Tom? Okay. Do, mayor and commissioner report, or public comments first. I'm sorry, public comment.
Hey, Jamie said we're gonna 15 McLeod Avenue. I just wanna, I don't know what y'all talked about EMS, but I want you to know it did happen to me back in March where, I had to call rescue to come get me. And they came and they couldn't do anything. And they said, we gotta take you to Surf City. I said, I'm dying. You know, it was 3:30 in the morning and I couldn't get anybody to come pick me up. I mean, it's poor my brother, he slept through it. But anyway, and I couldn't think of anybody else to call. There's only 2 people on my street, but Frank lives across the canal and, you know, 3:30 in the morning, he can answer. But anyway, anyway, when they come, they pick you up and they say, I'm sorry, we can't do anything for you, but we'll take you to Surf City and they'll treat you. So as soon as we get across the bridge, go around the roundabout, they stop and they pick up somebody that's qualified to give you some meds. The same thing happened when Paul fell. He broke his leg really bad and they couldn't do anything. So I don't know what we have to do, whether they have to come here or we have a call out or something, but it's a bad feeling when you need something and they're telling you, we got to go to Surf City, you know, to get some help. So anyway, it did happen to me and they ended up transporting me to Norwich and then they transported me on to Wilmington. So, you know, I had to have the meds. But anyway, just want to let you know that it does happen out here.
And we made it very obvious that it does happen.
Okay.
We were concerned and trying to figure out what they're gonna do in the future, because right now they only got one, paramedic group.
And are not qualified. She says, we can't give any meds. And I'm like, ooh, I got Tylenol in the cabinet, you know? But, you know, she says, we can't give you any meds. And I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? And she says, no, we can't give you anything. I'm sorry, we don't have anybody here qualified. But we can go to Surf City and get it, so.
But I think we're gonna try to rectify
Okay, thank you.
But the good news, you survived.
Oh, I did.
Any other comments, please? Okay, let's go to, Mayor Commissioner reports. John, you start.
I'll just give you a couple of additional comments from the byways meeting a couple of weeks ago. There was a lot of talk about renourishment. I've already mentioned some of that. One of the things they talked about is justifying renourishment, which is very, very sensitive, you know. The tendency is to focus more on renourishment as protecting your infrastructure rather than beautifying your beach to attract more tourists. Protecting the infrastructure means protecting the dune system so that the houses behind the dunes are protected, and you maybe quantify that more than you can the beauty of the beach. And they also mentioned transportation corridors in that discussion, which doesn't really apply to us, but it does in many other places. So that's a shift in how all the communities are talking about funding their renourishment projects. And the other thing that was mentioned along this line is that the president has a fierce opposition, to quote, fierce opposition to offshore wind power generation, which is no surprise, I guess. But some of the lobbyists, this was a lobbyist speaking to us, the lobbyist said that they're trying to redirect the funding, which has been stolen from offshore power generation that had been put in the previous administration. They're trying now to redirect that to funding renourishment. So, you know, who knows whether or not that'll happen, but that's the kind of stuff we were listening to.
Yes. Two small things. Thank you, Jamie, for bringing your experience to the public record. It's very important for our community going forward. And I'm on the BIS committee, and I'm very excited about the new issues being brought before our committee regarding king tides and inland flooding from the sound side. So I hope that we can do some great work on that issue moving forward.
Appreciate everyone coming out. Right, John, John and Frank, attended the North Carolina Byways, and it was a lot of, like you said, a lot of interesting topics that were there. But probably like the people said earlier, a lot of it has to do with water either beach erosion or either, falling flooding, water, tidal waters. But one of the big things I came back from that is all comes down to one thing, that's money. And it kind of comes down to, who can get the money, he can get the things done. I think we work and try and get hard, but there's a lot of people trying to get that money. So we're stuck down here in a little place, and we don't have the push and pull. I think our legislatures work hard for us, but, I think we're kind of at a disadvantage, but we're gonna work and try to get that money if we can. And like I said, we got, a new, that's gonna be, well, not a completely new board, but kind of a new board. So we'll, starting a new next year, it's gonna be interesting when we start looking at our budget and all that. And everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Nancy?
I just want to thank y'all for coming, and I want to welcome you soon, Alex. I will say personally, I like being a commissioner, don't mind it, but I really don't like politicking and campaigning. Not my cup of tea, so I'm glad it's over with. Being sweet that long was very stressful. Thank y'all and have a great Thanksgiving.
Again, thanks everybody for coming and y'all that stayed and, those that are still online. Personally, I want to thank, everyone for the encouragement and support I received in the mayor, and I want to hope I can continue to do what you want me to do. The other is congratulations, Alex, you worked hard and you reap the benefits, so that's good. I look forward to getting you here so easy. You're next, we'll train you, don't worry. But again, everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
You might want to mention the tree light.
And the Christmas parade.
Yeah, I was getting ready to. And the parade, you can't miss the parade. And the tree lighting afterwards, okay, but the parade you have to do. And please join in. So, again, thank you, and I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion second to adjourn, all in favor? All right. Adjourn.
Oh, I didn't.